Hey legends, welcome to the Pot Noodle. I'm your host Jared, and joining me is Dan. How are you, Dan?
Mate, I'm living the dream. We were just speaking off air. Spent a bit of last week in the hospital after almost suffering a stroke. So if I start talking shit tonight, I'm going to blame that on a lack of oxygen to the brain or whatever a stroke is. I'm not quite sure.
Blame it on the
And
meds.
yeah. Well, they got me on all sorts of shit. So anything we could say anything tonight.
There we go. It could get interesting. So it's going to be a weird little pod because I'll be honest with you. We normally would talk about the Celtic game on the weekend. I haven't seen the whole thing, so I've seen the highlights. I'll have a little chat. We'll leave the deep dive and the main thing for the guys on the weekend review in a couple of hours on the channel. They can get into the nitty gritty, the nuts and bolts of what happened and all that sort of good stuff. So yeah, we'll just get straight into it, I suppose. But yeah, it's I think there was a bit of an interesting one when the team list come out. So the first thing I saw, because I was out at a family event, and the only thing that jumped off the page to me was I expected there to be more subs, like more rotation in this game compared to like on this game in Aberdeen. I wanted some subs, but I wasn't expecting Casper back, so that was a nice little surprise there. So when you saw that starting lineup, Dan, how'd you feel? Were you shocked to see Casper back already as well?
Yeah, look, I thought he might sit another game or two in preparation for the cup final. But if he felt good, always happy to see the big man back, and that's not to denigrate Big Vil, as Brendan called him, Big Vil. I thought he was great. I thought he's been really good over the last few weeks. But Casper back in, as you said, fairly similar. I thought Brendan had sort of foreshadowed more changes to the starting 11, but we did give CCV the rest with the Austin trusty Liam Scales pairing at the back, which was interesting and probably at fault for the Hibernian goal that we'll talk about. But no, overall, I was a little surprised, and we'll talk about the subs and things as we move forward. But probably expected one or two more changes, maybe giving Cal Mack a rest or Dyson a rest or someone like that. But no, he was pretty solid. I guess AJ was out as well with Big Tony at right back, but no, it wasn't a particularly shaken up side.
Yeah, so like, looking at the lineup, I think McLaughlin's got it pretty much summed up here. AJ and CCV short of the cup final team, I thought when I saw it, and yeah, it's pretty much it. Like you look at it, Ralston does a good job for us, but if AJ's fit and firing and he's straight into that spot, the midfield's our strongest three in the middle there. Carter Vickers is nursing an injury, so Trusty being back over at right centre back alongside Scales. Yeah, that's those two are basically playing for one spot alongside the big man in the cup final. And then up front for the question's going to be: is Matey going to play at striker, and is it going to be Kun and Jamesy as your wingers, or is it going to be either through the middle with Mater on the left and Kun on the right, which we saw now? So those are things for us to watch. It's just over the next week, the next two games we've got coming up this week to first time basically since we got knocked out of the Champions League. We had two games in a week, so yeah, it's going to be good for the content on the channel. We get some stuff through here and see how it all plays out leading into that cup final. So yeah, overall the first half was a bit of an interesting one from what I've seen on the highlights. So I've seen a long form highlight of the first half, and then the general highlights for the whole game. So my view on when things happen is all over the place, right? So I think Casper made a decent save early on, may have been offside. Boyle with his goal, that was just I don't know what Trusty was doing there, playing the ball back in the middle like that makes no idea there. But then moving forward, like our goals that we had, yeah, Kun's one was he could have so easily squared that off. But anyone who's a forward, like I want my goal scoring bonus, so let me just dribble that around the edge of the post and get it in there. And yeah, Eda's goal, I'll let you get into that goal a bit more there, Dan. But yeah, what was your thoughts on the first half and how the goals and that all played out?
Yeah, look, you're right. I thought Hibs started pretty brightly. We gave Martin Boyle an early chance, and I think that was the good save from Casper. But he certainly punished us a little bit later. He capitalised on that defensive error, particularly by Trusty. I thought the two centre halves were both a bit at sea there, but Trusty failing to clear effectively gave Ball the opportunity just to sort of stab it home. But which is disappointing. I've been pretty disappointed with Austin Trusty, and I don't want to get into like a season review or a talk about his whole season since he come from Sheffield United, but I thought that was probably symptomatic of some of the problems we've seen from him across the season. It really, from and full disclosure, I know you were honest as well. I did fall asleep at some point during this first half. I just laid on the lounge, and at my age, you can't lay down in the lounge without dozing off. So I did have to sort of go back and try and catch up. But I thought we turned the game in that sort of last 5 or 6 minutes of the first half with the Kuhn equaliser where he was able to round the keeper. I think it's Jordan Smith in goals for Hibs, and he got that beautiful through ball. And as you said, Kuhn, that beautiful lob over the Hibs defence for my man, Big Adamita. Another very tidy finish, very calm, nice, good angle, hit it nicely, put us 2-1 ahead right on the break. And I think that really, coupled with our sort of pressing and intensity, which were really high, particularly towards the back end of the half, and the opportunities we had to exploit that high defensive line, I think that nullified those sort of early promising moments from Hibs. With particular mention for young Josh Campbell, I thought he brought really good energy to the midfield for Hibs. But we caught that defence out twice in pretty quick succession, which I thought was a really nice psychological blow, given that they had sort of battled hard and were in the game and in front up to that point.
So I want to give credit to Hibs as well on that thing. I like the discipline they had is they kept their high line and they stuck to it. They took a punt and they went out there and tried to play their football. They didn't come to Celtic Park being like, all right, we've won so many games on the trot, we're playing well. Now let's just drop back and sit and park the bus and try and hit you on the counter. They actually came and played football, so I'll give credit where it's due on that front. Yeah, it was a bit of a entertaining game from what I've seen so far. Still got to watch the full game back, and I probably will maybe after the pod or tomorrow or whatever when I got some spare time. But make it happen. So yeah, it's good to see. Good to see Eder coming into a bit of form as well. I think it's the run of games from his preferred positions kind of helping him a little bit. So I look at it like I thought the best patch of Eder's form so far this season was when Kyogo got sold and he was starting striker for like 4 straight games and he banged in like 2 goals at Aston Villa and then he was in some good form. And then we moved Maeda to striker and then he's been hit and miss. But now with Jota out, Maeda has to play on the left, which has opened up that spot for Eder to get a run of 3 or 4 games in a row now in his natural position. And he's starting to show a bit and get into a rhythm and understanding, okay, if I lead up here, I can play the ball into my wings in this area and then I can make my runs and get onto the end of crosses and whatever. So he's starting to get there. So it's good to
Yeah,
see.
100%. Look, I don't think there's any secret that Adamita strikes me as a real confidence player. And it would be, if you've come in, you're the number two to Kyogo, you've then got the opportunity to step up and become that main number 9, and then you're sort of pushed to the periphery because a winger is playing in that position better than you. And you look, I say winger, but Dazen, we can have that conversation about whether he's a striker or a winger. That's certainly out there. But you can see why that would be something that you would struggle with if you were someone that was a confidence player, and I can imagine that it would have been, I guess, difficult to come to terms with. He hasn't, from what we've seen, and obviously not there day in day out, but he hasn't been stroppy or looked like he's disengaged. And when the opportunities have come up, he's taken them, and he's, as you said, scored the 2 big goals against Villa, scored at Ibrox, scored here when the game was sort of in the balance. So credit where it's due. I think we're seeing that he can absolutely have those donkey touches. He can have some big misses, but he's a goal scorer and he will score goals if you give him opportunities.
100%. So I just want to go through some comments for a bit, give Dan a chance to have another cough, whatever, while we're at it. So John is saying, morning, Melzy friends. Luke and I got to the game on Saturday. Jared is insisting on sending you photos. Send them through, John. I'd love to see the pictures from the game of you and Luke there. Happy days. Heavy Vibes is how 4 in a row. I almost named the pod that. Here we go, 4 in a row. But I thought, yeah, someone else will probably do it on one of their shows. Talking about the changes, but like from the starting lineup, Smell the Gloves saying, I think we're getting the big changes versus the Sheep on Wednesday. More than likely, it's also the who can you be bothered not having to sit on a bus for however many hours to get up the road and then come back and all that sort of thing. So it makes sense. And then we've got Smell the Gloves saying, after watching the Sheep yesterday, I think we could play the B team and win easily. I heard it was a bit of a shellacking they got. So now I'm going to have to bring this one up from Robert Gibson. Can Pope Leo play football? Trusty looked rusty. Now, I don't know if Pope Leo can play football. However, this is my favourite thing I've seen all week since he got appointed. We sure know he knows how to manage. Got the doppelganger there. There it is.
I did see that.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit. So I showed the missus and she liked that one too.
I just really like the and look, I am certainly not one who was well versed on the potential replacements for Pope Francis, but the sort of instantaneous whiplash where I had to find out that the new Pope was American, but then to find out, no, he's actually pretty progressive and really sort of seems to dislike Donald Trump. So I sort of had a bit of a roller coaster of emotions. But no, it looks like we're in safe hands once again. And I've seen plenty of pictures doing the rounds with the green and white scarves and all that sort of draped over the big fella. So it's nice to know that we're still the Pope's team.
I was just waiting for Pope Scotty to come out onto the balcony wrapped in a curtain. Because Scotty doesn't know. There you go. We got here. McLaughlin saying it's a couple of games Dazen's not scored. I think it's basically been since he's gone back to the wing. He hasn't scored, but then we got Robert Gibson saying Eda's pretty good stats, but Christ, he just looks like a lump sometimes. And sometimes that's what you need. Let's be honest.
I get it. He'll have those moments where you're like, Jesus, like the total air swing at Ibrox.
Yeah.
And you're like, was it the air swing at Ibrox? It's all fading into one at the moment.
Yeah.
But and you're like, mate, come on, this is absolute garbage. But then really neat, like the goal at Ibrox, great tidy finish. The goal against Hibs, great finish. So it's frustrating, but look, I pinned my colours to the Adamita mast very early, and I'm just going to have to fight for my guy, you know.
I just look at it, Dan, and go, we spent a lot of money on Eda. It's not his fault we spent that money on him. It's the same with Engels. They're the player they are, and we bought them for the potential that they can develop into. So the amount of money we spent on them, that's not the player's fault. So get a full Brendan pre-season into him next off-season and watch him just take off and just absolutely unleash next season. That's what I'm expecting anyway.
I absolutely agree with you, but $6 million for Austin Trusty, you're kidding me? No.
McLaughlin said, I'd rather have Martin Boyle sign than take Lewis Palmer back this summer. Someone's trying to set up Robert Gibson in the comments here to fire off his usual comments. So, yeah, I agree.
Worse than Big Martin.
There it is. Robert Gibson, right on cue. Palmer's a wanker, even the Pope says no. And then Dermot McCulloch is saying, centre halves hate playing against Eda. He is bloody hard to mark. A full pre-season will be flying. So will Engels. There you go. Great minds think alike, Dermot. Don't tell everyone you're my burner account, okay? But yeah, second half, how do you think that went, Dan? And apparently the third goal, according to one of the comments early on, was Yeah, what was the quote again? Our third goal was a work of art from Heavy Vibes.
Yeah, hard to argue. I thought Hibs started the second half fairly strongly. They got a couple of early corners and put a little bit of pressure on our back four there. But when we got that third goal, which work of art, 58th minute I think it was, a period of sort of sustained pressure, bit of one touch football in and around the Hibs penalty area, good movement. It was finished by Rio, who sort of swept the ball home following a nice little pass from Arnie Engels. I mean, at that point, that really effectively ended Hibs' fight back. Once they had started that sort of 13 minutes really brightly and were pushing for an equaliser, but off the back of some really good fluid attacking play and good composure, I thought, in the final third, and that clinical finish from Rio, I thought that sort of took the life out of probably the game, because there were moments after that where I thought we looked a little bit flat as well, but and that, we'll talk about a couple of opportunities that we gave up toward the back end, and some changes that were made. But I thought we sort of felt like the job was done, and so did Hibs.
So give us a talk about those chances, because as I said, I haven't seen much of the second half at all. So you're the one who's got to talk about it, not me, mate.
So it was Jordan Obita, I think, cut in and had a little lash. Casper was really comfortable. And the old fella, the old fella they signed from Aberdeen, Canadian, Junior Hoylett.
Sonia Hoylett, yeah.
Yeah, who hasn't been a bad signing for them, full credit. He had a little, I think it was down to Casper's left, nice little palm to it, nice and strong. But no, look, overall, we had those chances. Adam Eder had a couple of, and I know I just praised him. Adam had a couple of chances as well. Nothing clear cut, and I think he was flagged offside for one of them, but wasn't able to sort of to push young Smith at the back there. But beyond that, as I said, we let Obita sort of run up and down a couple of times and cut across and got a little shot away. Probably lacked a bit of power, to be honest. Following that, the only things of note that I put down was Rogers introduced 18-year-old Sean McArdle for his debut in the 85th minute, and he looked impressive. Made a couple of good little forward runs, which I quite liked. And Luke McCowan forced another save late on, but there was fairly little after that I didn't think there was much noteworthy. So I can't really add a lot more to what you didn't see, to be honest.
So first of all, Sean McArdle's still only 17.
There you go. I've just aged him.
Yep, you've just aged him. Bloody hell. Go and get with the program. But the other thing is, I'm loving this from the Celtic way. Who is Sean McArdle? Youngster with football history profiled after Celtic debut. So you mentioned he's a futsal history. So you're saying he's a new Tom Rogic?
Sure.
That's what they're saying.
The new Tom Rogic.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, no. It's only, only a slight high bar there, especially on this podcast. That's it, we'll claim it. But you mentioned Junior Hoylett, right? And there's a comment here from Smell the Glove going, Junior Hoylett, I'm sure I had all his records in the 80s, right? It gets worse. I just spotted something. I completely forgot. Dwight Gale plays for Hibs.
True.
Formerly of Newcastle United and wherever else he was down there. I completely forgot he was in Scottish football. So they could add a strike force of Junior Hoylett and Dwight Gale, which would be the football manager in probably 2024. Some sort of people would have been like, "Hey, that's my fantasy team from 2014." I mean, something like that. It's ridiculous.
2024, you've been a bit generous.
Yeah, no, I realised I stuffed it up once I said it, mate. So I corrected it eventually. Don't worry. Yeah. So anyway, our goal was great. You're saying player focus. Anyone that you want to discuss in particular, and who was your man of the match?
Actually, I've got a huge diatribe about Dwight Gale. You've just sort of spoiled it for me. I was going to say
Do it.
30.
Do it.
17 minutes for big Dwight. It didn't do anything of note because no one did anything of note in that last half an hour, to be honest. And man of the match, it's hard to go past Nicholas Kuhn for me. Although I did think a big shout out to Tony Ralston, who created the most chances in the game. I think he created 5 chances, which is exactly what you want from someone coming in and running up and down the right. But a solid day out for Kuhn, a goal, an assist, and just look back to his best again. So
It's because the Bricky's a superstar. There you go.
you'll never catch me arguing that, mate. Oh, I think he's great.
There's one other thing I wanted to say. Martin Boyle scoring, Nectar Trianis playing in the middle of the park for Hibs. I was like, I'm a little disappointed. I'm like, where'd all the other Aussies they had go? They had like 4 of them this time last year. So there's only 2 now. So lift your game, Hibs. Was that what happened when they sacked their old Aussie coach who brought them all over?
I was going to say, yeah. Although, from what I heard, and I don't watch Hibs every week, but from what I've heard, Triantis has been really good in that sort of defensive midfield role rather than at centre back where he was a bit of a bomb scare. Which, I mean, they've replaced him because they've got Rocky Bashiri at the back, and he's a bomb scare
He's
in
a
his
bomb
own
scare and
right.
a half. Yeah.
Although it can just have a randomly great game every now and then where you're like, oh, okay, someone somewhere saw this and thought, yep, let's sign him up, and he has never done it since.
It's
But I
usually
thought,
against us when he plays that blinder too.
yeah, true. He's had a couple of good games against us over the years, but it was definitely one for the Aussies with Boyle scoring. But no, overall, the only other thing of note I had was Jack Iredale and Nicholas Kuhn got into a bit of a pushing match there at one point. I haven't gone looking, but I haven't seen why. I'm not sure what the basis of that was, to be honest with you. There was a bit of an off the ball coming together, but other than that, it's pretty uninspiring.
Yeah, just clatter him, Nick. That's all I got to say. I don't mind. Nicholas Kuhn can just get out there and smack some people around. It's great. I don't mind it. So we've got a few things to chat about before we go on. I doubt we'll go the full hour. Depends on how much of a rant we go on when we get into the nerdy stuff a bit later on. But I just want to answer this question here. McLaughlin saying, I still like Trianis and would do us a turn Trianis. Honestly, he's was never a centre back. He's always been a 6. So he's physical, will kick lumps out of players. I think he would have been perfect in an Ange ball system where he's pressing and clattering people and trying to win the ball back fast. In a Rodgers system in the 6, I just don't see that happening. I don't think he's that sort of player, but he is the right sort of player, though, that we should be looking at going into next season. So I just wanted to bring that up, but yeah.
Gets through a lot of work too, from what I remember last season and from his time in Australia. Gets through a lot of work, got good composure, and can sit on the ball. He's quite reliable in that midfield pivot role. As you said, he's not a centre back. You can throw him back there if you're desperate or you lose someone mid game. But yeah, good reading the game, good player. But I tend to agree. I think he would probably fit Ange Ball better than Brendan Ball.
Yeah. And there's another one here from Robert Gibson. Is Milanovic going to Aberdeen? Yes, that is happening. Western Sydney Wanderers, star turn, get him up there. And Dermot saying we need a lot better than Trianis if we want to progress in Europe. Then Tierney is the measure of the signing. We should be not going below. Yep. So we'll see how it plays out. We've got to get something about that position, but all depends on what the formation is and what other priorities are and what happens to us in the off-season in terms of departures, because that's something that I wanted to bring up as the next topic here, which was there's articles, there's stories floating around. Rio Hatate has been linked with a possible move to Italy in the off-season. Apparently Udinese is the club rumoured to have been tracking him, and they have scouted him against Killy recently. There's also rumours of clubs in Germany and France will be scouting him as well. So, Dan, do you think we'll hang on to Rio Hatate in the off-season if all that happens, considering he's said in the past that when he was in Japan, he didn't think playing in a top 5 league in Europe is possible. Now he's here. If the opportunity came up, he'd love to make that jump across. You're on mute, mate.
Sorry, I muted myself to cough and then totally forgot to turn it back on. I think he could make the switch to a top 5 league. I like the idea of him playing in Italy from a from a player's perspective with that sort of technical ability, and he doesn't mind taking a risk or pushing a pass. But for me, he's got 2 years left on his contract. He's 27, 28.
Yeah,
It's
about that.
difficult. He's we've got him for what should be the next couple of years, the best years of his career. But that's sort of at that point where you're asking for 10, 15 mil for a player. You're not seeing a lot of clubs pay that for anyone that's closing in on 30. Um,
Yeah, it's 27.
yeah, so if you think you can cash in and you can cash in up to around what you value him as, and I think to me he's better than a 10 or 15 million pound player. I just don't think you're going to see offers come in for him because of his age and because of his background and the fact that he hasn't got that European passport. Like the differences with someone like Matt O'Reilly. Uh, he does, I guess, look like he's possibly struggled with the demanding schedule a couple of times in Scotland. There's periods where he's dropped off a little bit. He hasn't had the consistency that you would like. I think we see the best of him when he's playing once a week. Possibly debatable, but I got to be honest, that's the way I've looked at it. So to me, you weigh it up: is it cashing in on a key asset now, and banking? And yes, before anyone says it, I know I said no one's paying for 30 rolls and we sold Kyogo, blah blah. I've been waiting for it, but generally speaking, and look, Ren are probably regretting that at the moment based on what I'm hearing. But he is a player that's central to our ambitions, particularly in Europe. So, what do you value that as? Is that worth more than what you're going to get for him? I'd like to keep him, but I think he goes. I don't know. It's just a feeling in the gut that he goes.
Fair enough. Yeah, for me, I think if the offer's right. So what you've got to realise is midfielders, their peak years tend to be aged 27, 28 through to 30, right? So he's coming into his peak. He's got 2 years left. So if he's coming into his peak and he's got 2 years, it's at the point where you either sign a new contract or you make your move. So we either have to sign him up long term and have him here for his peak years or move him on. Now, I like Rio. I love what he does for us, but he goes in the basket along with Olivier and Cham for me, where on his day he's unplayable, but when he's that day, that irritates me occasionally. Like the passing range that Rio has is great, but then Tom Rogic was the same. Let's be honest. Not putting green tin and specs on because he's an Aussie. There's players like that, those luxury item sort of players that sometimes we need guys who are going to get out there, roll their sleeves up and have a crack. But he does that. Rio will clatter people. It's just, I don't know when we've seen a run of 10 games from him where he's absolutely flying and in peak form. He tends to do 1 game here, 2 games here, 1 game here, 3 games there, and it's hit and miss. So I'd love for him to actually be more consistent, but I think if the offer's right, he'll be on. He'll be on his way. And heavy vibes are saying that Rio is a god or he's useless. Yeah. So useless as a yeah. So it's one of those ones where, say if Udinese come in at 20 million for him, I'd be like, yep, cool. See you later. Spend the same sort of level of money we spent on an Engels type, bring in another guy and off we go, hit the ground running. Or do we look to bring Lennon Miller in and then we'll be able to say we've got a spot for him to actually start? I don't know. There's options there. So we'll see how it happens. That's what the off season's for all the rubbish talk. I just think with Rio, it's one of them where it's going to be an interesting one. If we're going to have one big off-season sale, he's the guy I'm expecting to go. And where you said, Dan, about the 27, people aren't going to spend big money, I think we could still get decent money for him. I don't think we'd get the 30 million we got for O'Reilly. We may get 20.
Look, it's possible, and I think you've got to balance that. So, I mean, he's clearly got that desire to test himself in that bigger European league. He's ambitious like that. And look, I don't think he's one to down tools as such, but as you said, he has had that question mark over consistency. But it also fits into, so we've got the leverage. We've got the 2 years left on his contract. We know that worst comes to worst, we've got those key peak years of his career locked down. And if he goes for free at the back end, well, that's shit. But, we got 2 more great years out of him. You flip that along with the fact that our transfer strategy is buying younger, high potential talent, balancing development, selling on, making a profit, reinvesting. You take that 20 million, as you said, 15, 20 million, you get that. You take that, you spend 5 mil to get Lennon Miller from Motherwell. I think that would be a bargain in its own right. Um, whatever you do with the rest is interesting, but you've also, as you said, got that point where you can say to Lennon Miller, I know clubs from Italy and Spain or whatever have apparently come knocking. We're telling you now that you could have 2 or 3 big seasons at Celtic Park, starting in that midfield 3, and then go and be the next £30 million player that we sell.
And
Because
go
I
up to
don't
age
think.
22. He'd be
Sorry.
21, 22 after 3 years.
Yeah.
So by that point, he would have played, like almost 300 professional games, and he's still young, and he can move on and make that big move. It's perfect. Yeah, so I think Dan's frozen here. So it'll be a bit of a interesting one. But yeah, it's even if you got the Hatate money, you got 20 million, and yeah, you spent 5 million on that. There's a comment here from Smell the Glove, which is saying the team needs a good refresh, including the bench. And that's how you could fix it. If you go and get 2 starting level guys, then someone's got to drop out. So yeah, we're getting Dan coming back in here. Here he is.
Sweet. I can hear you again. I still can't see anything. I don't know where I've frozen up there, but
You're back now.
right. From what I heard, you're right. Lennon, Miller will have a stack of first team football under his belt by then, and he'd be a really big asset.
Yeah, what I was saying, Dan, is like even if we got, say, 20 million, 15, 20, as you're saying, you got Leonard Miller for 5, and then you spent the rest of it, you went and spent on the bigger, athletic, younger players that Rodgers wants, an Engels type as well, bring him in. And what do you got? You've got 2 players, which fixes the whole Smell the Glove comment. The team needs a good refresh, including the bench. Like, that'll help that out too, because someone's got to drop out, whether that's Cal or Engels or whoever else drops out. It's going to be an interesting one to see how it all plays. So, Smell the Glove saying there are a lot of typical Celtic fans already judging Leonard Miller, not seeing his potential. Is he even 19 yet? No, he's still 18. Check that out. He doesn't turn 19 till later in the calendar year. So, yeah, we've got McLaughlin saying we still need a backup right centre back, a left centre back, a backup left back if Taylor goes, 2 centre mids, a winger, and a striker. So there's a bit of work to do. So hopefully this off season, it's not all left to the last minute, and we can get a few of those emergency pods when we sign someone and just jump on and have a 15, 20-minute chat. This is who we've signed. This is who's gone. Hooroo, see you later. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I don't disagree with most of that. I think we could certainly benefit from filling out the squad and putting a little bit more quality in and around. Ideally, you want to bring in first team players and push guys back down, but there are some positions there where we certainly need to be restocking.
The thing with the quality as well is you've got 2 ways. You can bring someone in to start and then have one of those current guys dropping back, right? But the other way to look at it is you can have the guy there now, like Nicholas Kuhn, who we know that within the next 12 months he'll probably get sold, right? So let's bring in someone to challenge him for his spot. And if that guy beats out Kuhn, great, we've improved. If that guy doesn't, he sits under him for learning. And then when Kuhn gets sold, we've already got someone there to replace him. And then we just bring it in and get the production line we talk about. So there's 2 ways you can do it. So it's going to be a bit of an interesting one. We'll see how it all plays out. But it's Smell the Glove saying this is the best summary lot. Don't worry, we have the football doctor. Brilliant. So we're going to go to something for a bit of fun. This could be interesting with Dan on the pod, everyone. So there's a possibility of Celtic fans and an Orange Walk getting in each other's way on the weekend in the morning when our fans are on their way to Trophy Day. So apparently the Orange Walk, apart from being full of mutants, is for the 80th anniversary of VE Day. It'll be going through Trongate in a merchant city, and then God knows where after that, probably off to Mordor and everywhere else. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up and say if you're going through that way to get to the game on the weekend, I know it's a fair few days away, stay safe out there and give them bigots a wide berth, basically. There's going to be about 20 pipe bands playing and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, 20 pipe bands, about 3 family trees. That's about it. So yeah, you got anything to add, Dan?
Yeah, look, a younger part of me wishes I was on my way over there to be part of the festivities, if you will. No, look, as you said, they're a bunch of scum sucking freaks, Neanderthals, who just want to hang out and do their little fucking pity parties together and celebrate their bigotry and hate. Let them do it off wherever they want to go. It should be allowed in 2025, for Christ's sake. It's frustrating. It feels like it could be easily avoided, and it's unnecessary conflict in a city that finds in a country that finds every opportunity to avoid unnecessary conflict. We talk about like what other country would go out of its way to avoid scheduling title deciding derbies and things like that. Like, it's a country that's put a lot into avoiding these sort of overlaps and provocations. If you're going to go out there, have a great time. Don't get suckered into the shit. You know, go and celebrate. They're walking down celebrating hate, bigotry, and this being the scum sucking Neanderthal fucks that they are. Go out and celebrate the fact that we've won 4 in a row. We're on our way to a fucking 10 in a row minimum. Go and enjoy it. Don't fall into the provocation. You know, it's a stupid decision that it's going to happen. They'll have a party for anything. I saw earlier on Twitter that there was a dinner for the 20th or the 30th, 20th anniversary of fucking Helicopter Sunday or some bullshit. Like, next week it'll be the 40th anniversary of the fucking tap that was turned on at fucking Ibrox or some stupid shit. They celebrate history because it's meaningless bullshit. Then they're a club that doesn't have history. There are people that should be ashamed of their history. Move on. We win trophies. We go and have fun.
Yeah. So got some comments here. Smell the glove saying Orange Walk due to come down Merchant City. Robert Gibson saying the Orange Walk will be a sprint if they know what's good for them. And then McLaughlin saying only one mob's going to look bad here. Robert Gibson here with a great one, a pack of Palmers. For those in the know, there you go.
That is not a compliment.
So John summed it up. Tell them what you really think, Dan. There we go. So yeah, for me, just take it easy. Like they're going around, celebrating whatever crap they celebrate, and we're going to see our team lift trophies. That's all that matters. So sucks to be them. All right, here comes the boring part of the pod. Mathematics time. Champions League qualification is getting pretty interesting for the next season. So I've had a look at how it works out. So out of the 10 teams playing 2-league tie for 5 Champions League spots, only Celtic on 38 coefficient points and Bodo Glimt on 49 coefficient points are confirmed so far. So there's still 8 teams to come through to that. So the 5 teams with the highest coefficient points will be seeded. We could drop as low as 6th in the coefficient ranking heading into the tie, right? So we could be seeded, but we might slip out of it depending on who gets in there. So the next 2 to get straight guaranteed qualifiers with us and Bodo in the playoff round are the winners of the Austrian and Swiss leagues. So the Swiss league title race doesn't impact Celtic because Basel and their closest rivals are all below us in the coefficient ranking. And yes, smell the glove, it is some Scott Steiner math here, 100%. Austrian top flight is going to be one for us to keep our eyes on because if Sturm Graz gets over the line or they get beaten by either second place Austria Vienna or third place Wolfsburg, we're better than all of them coefficient, which means we're fine. We'll be ranked. We'll be seeded. However, if all four of those three all, slip on a banana peel, fall over, and RB Salzburg manages to come right through, then they'll go above us in the seeding straight away because they're on 48 points, so they're ahead of us. Then you get into the further thing, Danish, Croatian, Hungarian leagues. I'm not going to bother, and there's a whole bunch of crap there. I'll get to the cliff notes on all of that. But the long, I could go on and on about this, but the long story on this is there are as many as 6 teams in the playoff round who could be ahead of Celtic in the coefficient, as I said. So for us to be seeded, which means we have the second leg at home to get into if there's extra time and to get into the Champions League. If Dinamo Zagreb, RB Salzburg, Copenhagen, Red Star Belgrade, or Ferencvaros, if any one of those 5 teams, this is what we get to in the end, does not make it to that round of qualification, we will be seeded. That's all it comes down to. Any other team in any of those other leagues that we rattled off, win it, we're good. So it's going to be an interesting situation there. So it was some absolutely crazy Scott Steiner math there, smell the glove, and yeah, I got confused reading it all too, and I had to look at 4 or 5 different places to make sense of it.
Yep, I just the stroke I didn't have last week. I think I just had it.
I saw it on your face, Dan.
So all I took away from that was this is going to be late August that we're going to play those ties.
Yep.
We must be at our best, ready to go by then because there's some very big opponents in that. My only takeaway, strengthen early in the transfer window and avoid the mistakes of previous years where late signings have undermined our qualification efforts.
Get our players in so they can get a full preseason. Have a look at what's it called? Have a look at Engels. Have a look at Eder. Get our guys in early. Get a full preseason into them. Because the first week of those playoffs is August 19 and 20, and the return clash, which if we're seeded, will be at home August 26 and 27. So we need to have everyone in by then. Smell the glove saying, so Salzburg don't win the Austrian league, are we seeded? We need 2 of... If they don't win it, that cuts one of the 5 teams that we need to not win their league out of it. So Salzburg don't win their league, put a line through them. We still need either Dinamo Zagreb, Copenhagen, Red Star Belgrade, or Ferencvaros not to make it through to that phase of the qualification, and we will be seeded.
So they're 4th at the moment.
Who's that?
Salzburg.
Yeah. So the thing with Salzburg is if they win their league, they're straight into the same stage of qualification as us.
And they will oversee us.
Yeah, and they'll be above us because of their coefficients. If they come in, if they lose it and someone else is in first and second, they'll be beneath us in the coefficients. So that means we're higher up. So we need 2 of them. Exactly, smell the glove. We need 2 of them out of those guys to say if Ferencvaros is in the qualifying round before us and they get beat, then they will drop into the final round for the Europa League instead of being in the next round of Champions League, which means they're out, which means we get into a seeded spot. So that's pretty much how I understand all that. So Robert Gibson saying we move slower than an old tart pulling up her tights in the transfer window. Take your word for it, mate.
I'm just nodding along like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Totally, Robert. Yep, got ya. So, yeah, smell the glove. Lorwell will gamble our qualification as usual, sadly. I think Brendan will be up and about and giving him all sorts of a kicking. Man, look at it this way. If we run that gauntlet and we do that, then the board's not fit for purpose because, well, they're already not anyway, but the way I look at it is we have brought in so much money, we put so much money into the club in terms of ticket sales, in terms of buying all the kits and all this sort of stuff. If they don't give us give our manager and back him to get the players in early to make sure we qualify for that Champions League so we can build on what we did this season, then they're going to need that cyclone wire fence around the Parkhead, in my opinion, again, because it's going to get ugly.
It all kind of feels like we'll be here in September clamouring for signings, to be honest. But
I'll be sitting here, I reckon, the day before transfer going, where's me centre back? Where's me right back? Where's me left back? Where's me striker? Doing all that stuff again. But yeah, I'm hoping we've identified guys and we'll have the players lined up and get a few in on day one. Like, why can't we just, as I've said before, if Chris Garden is our main man, it's not going to be him because he's going to Sporting Lisbon from what I've heard. But if it's him, or we identified someone like him, we're saying, okay, we want you. It didn't happen in the transfer window. Why didn't we do what these German clubs do? Dortmund signed a player in February. Second week of Feb, they signed him, and it's all done. So as soon as the transfer window opens, bang, the player's in. And the player signed a 5.5-year contract. He's agreed to a 5-year contract or whatever. So basically it works out like the rest of this season is pretty much the equivalent of a loan deal, and then they're their player off the back of that. So I just think we could be better organised.
100%.
Anyway,
We say the same thing every season. That's the problem.
yep, 100%. So anyway, we're playing Wednesday evening against Aberdeen up at Pataudry. We touched on it earlier. What are your general thoughts heading into the game, Dan? You think there's going to be much rotation?
Yeah, I agree. A couple of people said earlier this is probably the one where we really shuffle the deck and give some minutes to some guys. Although Brendan doesn't like handing out minutes for nothing, I think there are got plenty of guys in and around the squad who will benefit for some time. Aberdeen, I don't know. I thought they might have been on for wanting to push Hibs into third, but from what I saw at Ibrox, they've basically put the shutters up till the cup final. So we'll wait and see where they're at. Overall, if you look at them, they've got some decent players. Like Habib Guy started the season on fire, and I really liked some of that physicality and aerial presence, but he's sort of had a patchy season. And other than that, it's guys like Graham Shinney. That Topi Keskinen looks all right. I think he's Finnish. He's got a bit of pace and a bit of directness, which I like that. And given the start of this season, it was such a promising season for the Dons. But I feel like, as others have said in the comments, they'll probably struggle against our B team this weekend.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it going, okay, so they got Mitov in goals, who's decent, and the rest of their lineup, there's nothing to worry about there. Like, there was a player early on in the season that they had, but he's not even in their squad against the Huns. It was like that guy with the hyphen, 2 names in their centre back, and he was a hard bastard too. He would clutter people, and I liked it. But yeah, it's I think he was a big Danish bloke, but yeah, it's one of them things where I reckon we go up the road, we'll make a few changes, and we'll just get on with it, basically. So I think we could put an absolute score past them, even if we, say, had quite a few changes. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing Johnny Kenny start or get a fair chunk of football. Like, realistically, if you've got Eder plays 45 minutes and then you give Kenny the whole second half. So I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't get to see Jamesy get a bit more play time this one. Yang, get him out there. Put Dazen and Cotton Wool.
You got to start Yang.
Yeah, get the Yang gang going on. And then, yeah, just in the middle of the park, I want to see Luke McCowan get a bit of game time. Bernardo should come in. You can put Bernardo in the 6, give Kelmac a game off, and then just the rest of the way.
What about your man, Big Rocky?
So I'm getting to the back line now. I'm thinking Schlupp will come in. I'm thinking Brendan will want to see Trusty and Scales together again. Maybe Naroski comes on, say, second half. Scales drops back comes off, and then you push Trusty back left and play Naroki on the right. Just get on with it. And then on the right, it'll obviously be Yeah, it'll be Rostinho, and then in goals, you probably keep Casper in there because he hasn't played for a little while, just to get a couple more games into him. And yeah, we're flying. So for me, score prediction, I think we'll win it. Huns won 4-0. I think with a weakened team, we'll win 4-0. What are you thinking?
I'll go 3 just because I can see us getting the job done and putting the queue in the rack fairly early. But I'll call it a Yang double. A Yang double.
Cool. I'm going to go with this one. First goal, last goal, both scored by Ralston.
Ooh.
There you go. Now, I'm not saying who those goals will be for. He could have the first goal he is an own goal, and then the last goal he scores to like square it off. But first and last will both be Ralston goals.
I like it.
There you go. So yeah, it's going to be a good one. We'll be back on Thursday to discuss the game against Aberdeen, preview the game on the weekend for Trophy Day, and yeah, have fun times. So I think we'll leave the pod there. Thanks, Dan, for joining me. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. If you haven't done so and you're on YouTube, hit like on the video. It helps us with the algorithm. Refer the pod to a friend. Tell someone about it. We appreciate it. It helps us grow our channel. And for our pod, we'll finish off with our final thoughts. So have you got one ready to go, Dan?
Actually prepared for a change.
Aha!
I know, look, most of you will probably know this, but I never actually read this till today, and anything to do with Tommy Burns makes me a little teary-eyed and a little emotional. But in 2008, when Tommy passed away due to skin cancer, uh, he passed away at 3 a.m. in the morning. When the boys came together the next day at 10 a.m., Scott Brown spoke with Mr. Strachan and said his sister was obviously dying of cancer at the time. She was only 23. He said, "When did Tommy die?" And they said, "Oh, look, 3 a.m. this morning." "Why?" And Bruni said, "Well, my sister got flowers at 10 this morning, wishing her good luck. Keep your chin up from Tommy."
What a
And I
guy.
just thought that epitomises the great man, but it epitomises the club as well. That's what Celtic's all about. And yeah, where else would you want to be? What else would you want to? Who else would you want to follow?
Yep, you go Dan with something really loving like that, and then you go, my final thought is when you're cooking and you got cayenne pepper in front of you, whatever you do, don't like breathe that in up your nose. It's not the best. That's why I've been a bit nasally today. The whole nose, throat's just like scratchy as. So public service, don't snort cayenne pepper. Hail, hail, everyone. See you on Thursday.
Hail, hail.